Okay, rule number one of podcasting: just make sure that this dang microphone is on. I never know, man.
Even me, I have to
Um,
check my audio too.
for real. Okay. Well, are you doing it on your computer or on your phone?
I'm actually on my computer. I'm already home. I'm comfortable. My setup's already all ready to roll.
Sweet. All right, let's do this. Alright, so we are live. So what is up, guys? This is Mr. T coming at you live from NYC. Welcome back to Convos, our podcast over here at TimTalks. And hey guys, welcome back to another episode. And this episode is going to be a blast because today I actually got a friend of mine. His name is Arnel. You want to give your greetings, man?
Hi guys, my name's Arnel Pegaround Jr. You can just call me Arnel or AJ. I've known Tim for a while now, and I'm glad he invited me because we're gonna have a pretty good podcast today.
For real. And guys, if you guys don't know how I came across him, he's actually a friend of mine since even before college, just a little bit before college. And then from there, we kind of hit it off. And, you know, he's a pretty cool dude. And the fact that he came over here after work, I'm not gonna lie, he just came off of work. And, you know, he took the time off to come over here to discuss this pretty sensitive topic. But the reason why I brought him over is because of the fact that not only is this a sensitive issue, but I think he's the only other person that I know truly that has respect for whatever it is on either end of the spectrum. Like I said, he's a pretty chill guy and he's pretty fun to talk to. And I thought, like I said, man, thank you so much for being on. It has been awesome as well. For many years, I know you as a friend, but also that you came over here to, you know, be there to help. So thank you again. Thank you. Really.
Yeah, not a problem. You know, opportunities like this don't come easy, so I definitely want to share my thoughts, and hopefully we're going to have a pretty good podcast. And for the most part, guys, thank you for having me in your podcast as well.
For real. Now, I know you guys were thinking, for example, you know, when it comes down to the topic that we got today, you know, politics, and you're like, oh man, what the hell are they talking about? But the deal is this is gonna be a little bit lighthearted in terms of, you know, what we got here, because like I said, we come from either end of the political spectrum. But, you know, it's all about you guys and what questions you got and what it is that we can give you in terms of advice. So we got a lot to talk about. But like I said, you know, we ain't gonna mess up when it comes down to the politics. We know how sensitive the topic can be. But again, we also are respectful for whatever people believe in. And, you know, that's the thing about it, right? You good, my friend? You good on your end?
Yep.
All right,
Yep,
cool.
all good.
So, let me just get down to the comment right away. So I'm gonna go ahead and read it off. Pardon guys if it sounds like a little bit explicit. The only one that I'm gonna omit is the F word, but I think everything else is kind of okay, at least for the time being. All right. So, so the comment here is this. So, I don't know if this counts as a mental health problem, Mr. T. You know, but you see, I got a problem about politics. I know, sucky topic. But the thing is, my family's got this freaking bitch-ass problem with me being gay, alright? And yeah, they're the super damn religious type, and it's not just that, they're also so uptight with money. Like, they're extremely freaking conservative, and it pisses me off. Like, what the hell do I do when things get too political and heated, right? So, that's the comment that someone left off. And, you know, again, judging by the tone and judging by what I've seen, you know, we both seen this. It's what do you think, my friend, about it?
This hits close to home because once in a while I will butt heads with people that are really religious in certain topics. And not just that. So when people are religious on certain things, there's a deep culture to it. When people don't agree with you because of their religion, it's because their doctrine says otherwise. It can happen a lot because, so depending on what religion you follow, each religion was structured in a way to fit a certain culture at its time period.
Mm-hmm.
A good example is Christianity. It dates way back, and there are a lot of rules, even to the point of the Bronze Age, if I remember correctly, where we have to follow certain rules, like man being married to women, because at the time, to make sure that a small village is like properly populated, we gotta have like, you know, men and women keeping a village, you know, properly populated.
True.
There's like because like Bibles and scriptures, they're not just rule books, but also this like a collection of the culture's history. And depending on like where, you know, how your family follows doctrine, they tend to like go stick with it to, you know, text by text. And it can be hard, especially when you know that certain things are not, I don't, not to sound too mean, but outdated. And I understand where you guys are coming from. It sounds like the things that they're holding on with their Bible or with their scripture, they think that it's the only thing they know that will lead them to salvation. And I understand why people don't agree with it, because some people think that religion is just all make believe. It's just someone that wrote an awesome fan fiction thousands of years ago. So I get where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And sometimes in regards to politics too, politics also changes with time. Some people over the years, this happens. So when you're young, you're very idealistic. And sometimes when you're idealistic, you dream of big things like, I'm gonna save the world. I'm gonna save trees. You're gonna do lots of great things, and that's awesome to have. And then as you grow older, you start being more realistic, and that's where like the conservatism kind of kicks in, because conservatives think they are very practical with their solutions, sometimes to a fault, and I get why people don't like that.
Yeah, for real.
The conservatism at its essence is see things the way as is and work your way around it rather than change it. Especially with like religion doctrines, there are some things that are very questionable, and I've seen people that that talk to me about the religion, like, hey Arnel, this doctrine sounds very weird. It sounds mean. It sounds out of line. Do you think this is ethical? And I told them that back then these scriptures were written for its time, and maybe like thousands of years ago it was acceptable to do this and that. But these days, because we became, we started learning about each other more, we became more accepting. We started like doing and learning things that were once counterculture and now becomes main culture, like the LGBTQ. They were once, the idea of LGBTQ sounds really radical for back then. But as the years go by, we started slowly embracing and loving them. But unfortunately, there are some people that hold on to their beliefs strongly because of how they were raised, and then maybe where their environment was too. Maybe at the time they thought that religion was their way to save them from, hunger, being poor, and like and bad times too. And because of what religion did to them at their lowest points, they hold on to that belief really, really tight. And then coming back, and then just to not sidetrack per se, but just to add on, and then come back to your financial question about being conservative with money. There's a chance that your parents were in a similar situation like you, where they don't have a lot of money, or they come from a background where money's not, plentiful, so they become really tight with it. And you know how money is these days; it's kind of hard to come by, and if you don't spend wisely, you'll pay for it in the long run. I've seen friends, I've seen loved ones, they're gonna take on loans they cannot pay back completely, and chances are it gets repoed, or they don't have money for themselves in their next paycheck, and it gets tough. Sometimes you need to understand where they're coming from too, with their, why they save money or hold on to money really, really tight. For me, I admit I'm those types of people that hold money tight, because I know there are some payments and purchases that I cannot commit now because I don't have the money for it. And if I were to pay, do a down payment, I'm gonna have to pay more in the long run once I complete the payment plan. It's like a common example is like cars. It starts out as $30,000, but if you do a down payment plan, it's gonna probably cap off at $40,000 once you finish your payment plan, because there's interest rates too. There's a lot of factors to why some people hold on to their beliefs, their financial ideologies, because of because of how they lived prior and how they live now. Their experiences from before solidify their present ideologies from here on out.
That is true. And it really is in the case, thank you, man. As well, when it comes down to, the religious concepts that we've had before, it's just very coincidental how they tied into political principles. And you know what I mean, man? You'll find that, for example, the conservatism in religion ties in quite a bit towards the conservatism that you see in politics. So again, here when it comes down to this person's comment, right, when it comes down to them when they're talking about money, right, let's be practical, let's be honest with things, right? When it comes down to money, it's always going to be this sort of issue because people want to have that sense of security, right? They want to be secure and they want to have that freedom and ability to be financially well off and ready in the long run, right? So in terms of that, it seems more as like a parental issue, right? Rather than being too political, because let's be honest, with every parent, there's always going to be that presence of where is the next revenue gonna come from, where's my income gonna come from.
Yes.
And all those things, right? So that's just a very contentious area where when it comes down to us, if we're still young and we're still students, when it comes down to money, only later on will we like really understand that. I mean, like, take Arnel and I, where for example when we were in college, we also contemplated on the future, and we also contemplated on what it is that we wanted to do within college, and as well as where we want to go from there. You remember that, man?
Yeah.
we
And
Mhm.
I'm telling you now, for those who are pursuing college, especially if you guys are in financial straits, just think about what will college do for you. Because when Tim and I worked and studied at our respective local college at NMC, we had lots of thinking. And during that time of growth, we started like piecing together, it was like, okay, what's gonna work for us in the long run? And it can get tough too. Sometimes people question why they're even in college to begin with, and there will be crossroads where you guys will face, but this is a learning process that everyone will go through. And after you've learned what you want to do, this will, like, looking back, it'll be one of your more memorable moments that you got past this loop.
It will be amazing, guys. After those endeavors in college, you're gonna enjoy that. But back to what we were saying about politics, right? First off, we get it as well that we can see on the political lines where being gay is like one side supports it, one side is against it in a way. But when we really look at it, right? Especially when you delve into things like conservatism, and then when religion is added, and at the time, like Arnel said, the principles back then, any form of change can be taken to the extreme, especially when it comes down to the basic principles of being a boy or being a girl, right? But in today's society, we find as well that there is no, it's not just about being a boy or a girl, it's about being a person, right? And so when it comes down to being gay, we understand as well that like Arnel said, you got, if you're on one side of the political spectrum, compounded by a understanding and believing in a religious principle that they uphold, right? So with your family, you can expect some backlash when it comes down to being gay. But again, it's all about being you, and that's something that my friend, if I may ask you real quick,
Yeah, sure.
so when it comes down to politics, we know that we come from either end of the political spectrum, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You're on one base and I'm on the other base. But guys, do you hear us arguing and freaking messing it up? And is this gonna be like I don't know what kind of session or whatever? But no, it's not happening here. And it's not because of the fact that we're friends, or it's not because of the fact, like I said, when it comes down to politics, even relationships are tested, right? But it ain't happening here. So my friend, what is it that you can say, about respecting either end of the political spectrum? What do you feel about that?
So when it comes to the political spectrum, whether you disagree or not, you always have to remember what's politics at its most fundamental level. So how I try to simplify it for others is politics is a way for people to solve problems. Everybody has a different way of approaching problems, especially with like two political spectrums. For example, one of them wants to, put more money in the economy so it can flow more. And another politician will say, hey, we're going to make investments, we're going to pour money rather than instead of people, we're going to invest in infrastructure to put more money there. Although their ideas are different, it's a method of solving a problem. And you also have to understand that everybody's methodology will be different, but ultimately it boils down to a single goal of getting a certain need, whether it be money, a stable educational infrastructure. There's like different political issues, but they'll always have the same goal. Methods are different, but then the goals are the same.
Exactly. And you know what I also feel as well is, guys, again, when it comes down to, politics, again, it's based on the rule of law and also on people's opinions. So part of the problem that I notice as well is I notice that when I see politics, and again, not to diss anyone's beliefs or whatever, right? But you can see there's some kind of religion and there's some kind of influence happening there, compounding the politics that we see. Because in reality, if we look at both ends of the spectrum, you can see there are some important issues there and there are some things as well that make sense, right? It is important that change happens, and it's also important to conserve what it is that got us here in the first place, right? How America and how any nation came to be as is, right? But it's just those other forces that happen, right? Some things that should not have been there in the first place, which is why we got a separation of the church and the state. There's a reason why that happens. And that's most important, especially when it comes down to politics, because like I said, when there's other forces at play, it gets kind of heated. My friend, have you seen those political infighting where things got violent? Have you seen those?
Yeah, it's very unfortunate too, because especially when it's like in the same country too, it's sad to see, because that's their own flesh and countrymen. They're just hurting each other for something they can just talk about in a cafe or something. It's very unfortunate things like that happen, but in a modern society, it's our goal to try to understand each other, because I believe that a successful nation should always listen to one another, especially when a country becomes bigger and stronger. There will always be a faction that won't, not a faction per se, but there will always be a group of people that won't agree on one thing. But it's also important to understand why they think like that and how can you make a compromise within that thinking zone,
I agree, man. And the fact that with regards to this person, right, we understand, especially when it comes down to when politics bleed into like a family, and the structure there. And like we said, guys, there are fine lines between where some things are acceptable and where things should not be there, right? What with politics nowadays, and what with it affecting families, and we've seen that. You remember, my friend, on Saipan, what with the election that was happening. We saw, for example, we saw literally like a border, like I think it was on Middle Road and then heading toward Chinatown, where like we literally saw either ends of the spectrum literally divided by the street. I don't know, you seen that, right? How do you feel, for example, like I said, what do you think is most important now with regards to politics? How can people approach politics properly, like the way we do?
Man, that is an awesome question. So for me, instead of like telling them what you want, just listen to them first, because the way politics is handled these days is kind of sloppy. So my favorite question to ask people is, instead of what side you are on, it's how would you solve this political issue or any issue in general. Instead of knowing where they stand, you can understand how will they solve it, and then you guys can work on top of that. Because people think about sides first, like which side are they on. The minute they hear you're, for example, a Republican or a Democrat, that's where they start splitting up. Instead of doing that, just ask them, how would you solve this? Because sure, I am mostly conservative, but there are certain things I agree with on the liberal side. For example, I accept Social Security and marijuana. To me, I highly agree that these two things should be, one, marijuana should be legalized, and two, Social Security should be kept. I am a conservative mostly, but it doesn't necessarily mean I'm the complete package, because every person is unique to their solutions. They all have their different ways of seeing how certain things could be fixed.
That's true. And okay, you just reminded me of, there was this video that I saw on Smosh where it showed like a comparison of politics between like 1776, and then there was this politics in like 2016, and
Yeah.
I just saw like the infighting. It's like, you suck, bitch, and then I'm like, what the hell? Okay, you guys, again, of no offense to whoever it is, you can probably tell from the tone or whatever, but it was just so weird that it approached it approached that point, and it's just so awkward to think that, yo, you can do that. Well, I've seen that in other countries where the infighting is just so weird, but it's all in all about, guys, when it comes down to whether you're the tough ass elephant or or the bitch ass donkey or whatever, right? It doesn't really fall within those lines. There's more to politics than just the logo or the color or the
Yes.
party or whatever, right? It's like, for example, like, when you're triggered by a color, like, oh my gosh, I see more red on that side. It's just so weird. Guys, that's like the tenet of elementary school, the colors and the logos and the drawings, right? And the animals, right? And the fact that we can heavily politicize them, it's just so weird. And I don't know, but like Arnel said, right? You just listen and really delve into how the issue is solved, and not what line that you fall behind, right? Because falling and splitting between parties, splitting between ideas and ideologies, right? It just gets heated. And like, back to the person's comment, when things really do get too political and heated, right, it starts to get ridiculous because it's less on the policy and more towards the person in general, and what they believe. It's so weird, and that's usually how it is. So I think as well, when it comes down to, like I said, look at us, right? We're talking as if shit didn't happen, but it's been happening all around us. And it's like I said, things can be so simplified and so sure, and it's just that, like I said, it boils down to the simple principle of compromising, right, man?
Yes, of course.
And do you got like any other advice in which you want to add on to what with politics bleeding into families, and how do people deal with that? How do you think people should deal with that?
So, for me, I think, especially when they start yelling, just be quiet and listen. And then after they finish yelling, most of the time, I've been there before, when people start yelling their ideals and beliefs at you. When they're finished, they can calm down, and then that's when you rebuke. Because if you try to make like a rebuttal during their yelling, it'll only make them angrier. So there will be days where the people you talk to, they get really triggered of what you say, and it's unfortunate that some of them won't even let you rebuke their claim. So sometimes you should be patient with them, because, and not just with any debate, with debates as well, but with ideologies as well, because sometimes first of all, regarding that comment, I can guarantee you one thing: your parents love you. They love you. If they hated you, they would have kicked you out a long time ago. And I know that for a fact, because there are days that you'll butt head with your parents, but they did not kick you out. I know your parents are still struggling to cope with the fact that, you're gay and all of that, but trust me that they still love you. It may be awkward at the dinner table from time to time, but deep down, I believe that they still care for you. And if you let them learn if you start opening up to them little by little, and tell them why you're doing, how you're doing okay after coming out, they should like slowly, get to know you more and more, because to them, the LGBTQ is very new and stranger, and because of how it conflicts with their doctrine, it's a recipe for isolation. But do not lose hope, and just give your parents a little more time, and just be patient with them, because they have lots of learning to do, just like everyone else. There are things that we don't agree with each other, but it's also important to learn why we believe in them to begin with.
For real. And I feel like we should be politicians.
Oh boy. Oh no.
I don't know, man, but I feel as though, like I said, is why I selected you to be on, because, like I said, it's so simple, and it's just, but the montages where I've seen it happen, like I saw recently where I think it was in South Africa, someone just fisted another politician, and I said, oh my gosh, guys, so simple, what are you doing? I mean, like, what happened? I remember before, you remember how in like before like the Civil War, politicians actually carried weapons regardless of whatever end, right? And now we hear, for example, what with regards to, and when we regards to gun laws, we know how it is, right? But back then it was just like a free-for-all, and it was
Yep.
just so strange that, like I said, guys, politics the way it is, right? It really boils down to, actually using your head and just finding ways around what it is, what is the issue per se, right? It can be so simple to find a solution, and it can be so simple to compromise should we listen to each other, right? Instead of just, when you mentioned about how people do the rebuttals and whatever, right? And when it's interrupted, it's like no one's listening to each other. And it's the same thing what's been happening on the floor, I've seen, whether in Congress or whatever, right? You've seen that, right?
Yep.
It's so strange, but here's the thing, guys. If the countries that you're living in are still running, there's still a chance, because we know how it can boil over just with the power in the hands of a couple of people. But if your country is still running, at least there's a voice that's being heard, and at least as well, there's people who actually get how the hell politics should work. But really, it's so weird, man. It's so strange as well to hear that. And guys, like I said, be lighthearted with politics, because like I said, we don't want to make things harder with regards to what's been happening with our rules and laws, right? We want to make things easier. We want to be understandable with things, right? And it shouldn't be as divisive as it is. But hey, if we're ever elected, vote for us. Oh my
Alright,
gosh.
boys, nuclear power, here we go.
The heck? Oh man, but seriously, it's been a treat as well. Also, guys, just to let you in on something, we're recording on Zoom, so we're actually gonna play a short soundtrack because the time is about to end off. So, we're gonna head on out first, and then we're gonna come back in. And you okay with that, my friend? Because it shows
Yeah,
here like a
not a
timer.
problem.
So yeah, we'll just end it off for a bit. We'll take a break, and then we'll come back in. We'll come in strong, and we'll give you our final advice, and then we can sign off and enjoy our days. But for now, enjoy this OST. All right, so this is what I got for you guys on the radio. Please enjoy. Right? Alright guys, so I hope you guys enjoyed that soundtrack. Again, you can check the link in the description if you want to take a look at it for yourselves, because sometimes I go ahead and get back into them, because like I said, there's a lot of good and wonderful creators out there. So shout out to them, and thank you so much for allowing us to use your soundtrack without having to deal with copyright. But anyway, so back to what we were saying about the topic. My friend, do you got like any final advice you want to give to our wonderful viewers out there?
Oh, yes, this was one of my favorite ones. So, when it comes to politics, the current events that you see on the news actually define our politics. One of my favorite instructors back at college, Mr. Eugene Foles, he simply said it best: the times define the politics. It swings like a pendulum. My favorite examples to use is, we'll start with the COVID-19 pandemic. 2020, Joe Biden won the election by a slim margin because a lot of moderates because the moderates were actually the key to winning the election. Moderates are basically people who are in the center of politics, like they're either or depending on the times. But Joe Biden won that election because, despite what other people would say, to me, I believe he won that election because of the current situation at the time. People were losing their jobs. We needed money. And Joe Biden's campaign promised a method to solve that, like stimulus checks, investment in federal aid and grants. And that's why a lot of people chose him this time around. And then another great example was, and this is a very common one too, I like to use if I'm in a rush with my explanations. It's World War II. When Hitler and Imperial Japan, when they started getting overconfident with their conquest, the United States overwhelmingly, voted to go to war. When that infamous speech came, I believe it was FDR. It was the day of infamy speech.
Yeah.
When he made that speech, Congress accepted it, and the people at that time, they were cheering for it. Because back then the United States just got out of a depression, and they needed more job opportunities. And that's like, hey, if there's a way to make money, the workers decided to go for it, even if it's fighting a very violent war. And it paid out, and it paid off in the end too. Once they won World War II, the United States cemented themselves as one of the strongest superpowers at that time, and even today. Depending on how think of the current events now, the United States, actually not just the United States, globally, countries will react accordingly depending on their ideologies, and sometimes you'll catch it too. Their ideologies will shift just a little, but it's just enough to know that they're learning, that they're changing their ways. Sometimes, I told this to my friends. Sometimes some conservatives will close the Bible just to get shit done.
For real. And guys, building up from what Arnel said, right? Times change, and so do politics, so do policies, and so do ideologies, right? So regardless of you are affiliated with a party, or for example, if you are there on an individual level, just to read off from the whole entire topic, the whole comment, and just to sum it up for you guys, first off, when it comes down to politics, both and I can agree that it can be a mental health issue, right? We know for a fact that it has happened, right, man?
Yep.
And when it comes down to politics, like I said, it can be very contentious. It can be very hazy. It can be very hostile, right? And it does happen, right? And when it comes down to, for example, like the situation, with being gay, which I'm hoping to talk about in another episode, with regards to that situation. But we can see, for example, how when it comes down to politics, there really is a fine line. Like I said, there's a reason why we gotta separate the things that we have, separate the church, separate the state, separate the rule of law from the rule of whoever it is that you believe in, right? So we gotta be very careful with that. And it's understandable still there how people can uphold their ideas because they're entitled to that, right? People have their own opinions and they have their own way of going about things, right? But it doesn't mean that they won't listen, right? And like Arnel said, it doesn't mean your parents don't love you, right? It's just a matter of what's been happening in the world. Like he said as well, events in the world, current as is, right? Which is why we always continue to be updated, at least a little bit. If we feel that we want to get away from it all, at least stay a little bit informed with what's happening, right? Because it is what it is and it will define the future, right? And if the future is going to be ours, Hell yeah, I want it to be good. I want it to be awesome, right? We want it to be
I
awesome.
definitely agree with you. Hell yeah.
For real. And this is the world that we're gonna uphold, and we gotta make it ours, right? And when it comes down to money, right, that can be less of a political issue, but also more towards just the practical issue, right? Again, as we get older, whether we are working or whether we're the student, we should be empathetic when it comes down to money, right? Especially when we try to find the means. Because like we've been through, when it comes down to money, only toward college, and then as we work, we're like, oh, okay, now we understand truly how it is when it comes down to funds, monetary issues, and whatever, right? And to say, for example, you left it here at the end, they're extremely freaking conservative, and it pisses you off, and it's understandable, for example, how we can be discontent with our own party or how we believe, right? Like Arnel said, we know both ends, right? He chose one side, but he knows the other, right? Same as how I made my side, but I look to the other to see what it is that's happening on their end, right? Because you can't just neglect a person, right? You can't just neglect an opinion, because with every opinion there's some truths to it, right? And
Yes.
like he said, like you said, it changes with the tides. It changes with what's happening in the world, right? But I think the most important thing, and call me out for this, my friend, if ever, regardless of where you are on the spectrum, regardless of whatever it is that you believe in, you don't even have to, for example, you don't even have to be a part of a party to make a difference.
Yes.
Like you said, with regards to the election and anything else in general, when it comes down to choosing our politicians, choosing our leaders, right? It's all a matter of what you believe in, right? Because even you as a moderate, you as a person who wants to see both sides, can make that difference, right? And it's just the fine line between choosing parties, but it's more about choosing it for yourself, choosing what
Yes.
policies you intend to uphold. And that's why when it comes down to a free election and all those wonderful things, right, you can omit yourself. You don't have to vote at that time, but you can vote when the time is right. But again, it's all about you. Let your voice be heard, and always ensure that, like we should be in politics, regardless of whatever we believe in, maintain that respect, maintain that attitude of valor, but also maintain that attitude of just being kind, courteous, loving, and caring for everybody. It is what it is, man. And do you have
Yep.
you want to jump in on anything, my friend?
I just want to lead from your point of view, because I agree with everything what you just said, especially with how we should all care and love for each other, especially when we all have different opinions. We're still human at the end of the day, and we're trying to simplify it to like younger audience as well. People will like color blue, people will like color red, but at the end of the day, a color is a color.
And I like color
Everyone
green.
will have. Yep, exactly.
Not to say it's a party or whatever, right? It's just more so like like you said, it's so simple, but it's like, oh, when you politicize color, when you politicize a number, when you politicize a symbol, and I'm like, guys,
Uh-huh.
my gosh, how simple can you be? Why did the elephant and the donkey have to be the problem, right? Why? Of all things, right? In fact, they're the most innocent creatures. The donkeys don't fight. They're slow as heck. And elephants are afraid of the little guy, right? So, it's just so strange. But really, all in all, to whoever left this comment, you brought up a very awesome issue, a very serious issue at that, but also an awesome one in that you get to hear what it is, how politics should really work. And us coming from either end, we know how it works, and we know that as long as we tune into the other side, we're gonna make this world better, right? And if this is gonna be our world, hell yeah, we want it to be better. We are gonna
Yes,
take
sir.
over. It's gonna be ours, right?
Yep.
So, really, and you have anything else to leave off, man, before we sign off?
I got nothing. All I just want to say is thank you guys for having me. And Tim, thank you for inviting me to your awesome podcast. Guys, don't forget to subscribe to this guy. This man right here has genuine good advice. We all share one planet, and even if we don't agree on one thing, by the end of the day, we're still in this together, okay? So stay positive, and thank you guys for having me again.
All right, thank you, man, for being on. And so, guys, this is gonna be this episode of Convos. Again, let me know what you guys think. This was awesome. Everything went smoothly, and I hopefully, the one thing that I'm gonna do on my end is editing. Pray for me, guys, that it's gonna go well, because I try to experiment with the things that I got. And also, man, thank you for being on. Like I said, this was fun, and this won't be the last that we see of Arnel. Like I said, he's one of the homies. And it's just a matter of juggling our schedules. I respect his own, he respects mine, and the fact that he got to be on despite the fact that it's like 12:40 over there, it's just amazing, man. So again, thank you.
From the future.
So thank you, man, for being on. And guys, let me know if anything. Again, check out the description if you want to check out his Soch. I'm gonna put it over there if you guys want to see him. And if you guys have any questions for him, again, let him know if anything, or let me know if you're too shy or whatever, right? I'll go ahead and intercede for you. I'll let him know, and he can answer your question. Like I said, he understands things. For real, you understand things, and you know things from every end of the spectrum. So again, guys, let me know if anything. Leave it in the comments. Check out the description for his Soch, and as well, if you want to hear the soundtracks, again, I'm gonna leave a link to them as well. Maybe to the channel, maybe to the video, I don't know, but we'll see how it goes from there. So I hope you guys enjoyed the radio. I hope you guys enjoyed having him over. Again, this was pretty awesome. This is pretty good, actually. And like I said, this won't be the last you hear of the homies. So long as I continue to do so, we're gonna get on, and we're gonna keep on going, right? And like I said, and like we said, the world is ours, right? It should be ours, and we're gonna make it ours, right? So guys, again, really thank you all so much. Again, please comment down below if anything. Please DM me or PM me if anything. Please DM or PM him if anything. He'll answer your questions when available, right? Like I said, we're gonna continue on with our lives, and this was awesome, man. So, alright, so with that being said, thank you all so much for tuning in. Please like, share, sub, and much love. This is Mr. T, and this is my homie Arnel signing off. Much love, everyone. Give your bye-byes, man.
Fare thee well, everyone.
Alrighty.
Get some good night's sleep.
For real. Wherever you are in the world, please have a good night's sleep. Have an awesome morning. And we are signing off now. This is Mr. T. This is Mr. Arnel. We are here signing off. Much love, everyone, and have an awesome day, right? Peace out.
Bye-bye.